Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, and Bill, NE4RD.
Hello and welcome back, everyone. This is episode 618 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. This week, we're telling you about what we've been up to, along with talking to Andy Stewart, KB1OIQ, about Andy's Ham Radio Linux. But before we get into that, we should let you know who we are. For our silent key Russ, K5TUX, I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD. And yeah, welcome back, everyone. And yeah, we're really excited to talk with Andy here in a short bit. But before we get into that, let's find out what we've been busy with since the last recording.
Yeah. So for my week in food, I've been trying to get more into the habit of cooking. Still failing miserably with that because it's hard to plan meals for one person. But this week I did fix truffle honey chicken with Korean cauliflower and a potato, onion, asparagus medley for dinner on Monday night, which is the truffle honey chicken and Korean cauliflower is always something we ordered at Cheesecake Factory. Mushroom stuffed chicken and grilled summer squash for dinner on Tuesday. And then my week after that was super busy. So last night, which was Saturday night, I hosted poker night at our house and we had taco night. So I made some shredded chipotle lime chicken, some ground beef that had my special seasoning blend, and the typical soft tacos, hard tacos, etc. I made a yummy avocado ranch dressing and the original Baja sauce that Taco Bell used on their gorditos and such like 15 years ago. They've since changed it. So, and tonight I quickly ate the viral TikTok salad before the podcast started, which uses a lemon vinaigrette. And I have fallen in love with the thing. It's super summery. So
was that, do you like sit there and doom scroll TikTok while you eat a salad out of a bag?
I saw a video on it on Facebook months ago. And, the guy was like, whatever. And he tried it and he's like, okay, that's amazing. And it's lemon juice, olive oil, some white wine vinegar is what I use in it. And I stir in a little mayonnaise to make it a little more creamy. Some garlic, and it is truly amazing. They serve it, the TikTok video served it on shredded lettuce. So of course we had leftover shredded lettuce from taco night. So that's what my dinner was tonight. And yeah, I am hooked on the thing. So I have to admit that. So regarding computer stuff, I have spent this last week taking care of tons of probate related duties that I'm responsible for. It seems like every day that passes, there's just more and more to deal with regarding Russ. I'm still avoiding Russ's office and his shack regarding radio stuff. I did make a 2-second jaunt through his office to grab a hammer this week. That was all I could. I'm having issues.
Yeah. And
excuse me. Okay, over that. We're getting all of the rain that we should have gotten April. They have that whole April showers brings May flowers thing. No, we had no rain in April. But except for that last week where Missouri this area in Missouri kind of got wiped off the map with hail. April 27th, we had a hail here at the house. Bill got to see the damage to my car when I got to Hamvention. They actually totaled Russ's car because it was 10 times worse than mine. And then on April 28th, which I think Bill said he heard about in Montana, we had pineapple-sized hail that took out cars and windows. The airport in Springfield, it hit like a 3 or 4 mile swath. But the airport in Springfield, Missouri every car in the parking lot was destroyed. And there's a company called Convoy of Hope that goes in for damage due to hurricanes and things like that, doing relief stuff. They actually showed up with a trailer truckload of tarps to cover all these cars. And people were like, I'm so happy that this happened, because I would have lost everything in my car while I was gone to Florida or wherever they were going to. So yeah, that storm hit the next day. So the adjuster, after everything was done, he showed up yesterday to pick up the title and stuff to Russ's van. He said that they had 12,000 claims just in Springfield, Missouri.
Wow.
For that storm. And he said that at this point, they had totaled about 75% of the cars.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was like, okay. So yeah, since we're getting, other than that little week right there at the end of April, we're getting all the hail and rain and stuff now, that we should have gotten then. So I kind of feel like I'm living in the Florida swamps, minus the alligators. And then we had, during our poker game last night, we had more hail. So we had POTA golf ball size hail for about 15 solid minutes last night. Wow. I haven't even gone out to look at my car. I have no idea. So I'm just like, it's probably
a claim.
Yeah, a claim. Well, and the thing is, I talked to the adjuster yesterday, or the agent that was here, and I was like, so all the body shops are backed up for like 6 or 8 months. If for some reason I experience more hail claims on my vehicle, what happens? And he's like, just call us.
Yeah.
He's like, So, but right now my body shop appointment is set for October 23rd, I believe.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
That's a long way out there.
Just like, okay. Yeah. So, and it's actually in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So that's a 150-mile drive each way. So I'm like, great. All right.
Yeah. They're going to get you a loaner, I bet, huh?
Yeah, no, they can't because of my wheelchair.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the problem. If I could do it any other way, then they could get me in a lot sooner. But because of the fact that it's going to have to be something that I like show up there at the crack of dawn, they get it done in one day, hopefully.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If not, they'll like take me to a hotel or something and drop me off, or get like an Uber or something to take me to a hotel. Yeah. So I'm like, because Uber in Springfield, Missouri doesn't offer any sort of handicap accessibility vehicles.
Interesting.
So yeah, Tulsa does. Tulsa was the closest one that does. So like, great. Yay.
That's a lot to take in there, Cheryl.
Well, and it is a lot to take in. And that was kind of my, not really a gripe with, we have Progressive Insurance, but I was like, what do I do about my wheelchair? And they're like, oh, we didn't even think about that one.
Yeah.
Give us a minute. So they called me back like 30 minutes later and they're like, so here's your option. And it's your only option. I was like, yay. So, but yeah, last night we had the POTA golf ball size chunks. So I guess I'll go out tomorrow and actually face that if there's any damage. So, which I'm sure there probably is. But so, yeah, that was my week though. So how was your week?
Nice. Yeah, that seems very exciting.
Yeah.
Well, my week, I was traveling with, I have the in-laws here at the house, and I was traveling with them to various Montana towns. We went to Helena and Missoula this week, visited some regular spots there, showed them where my daughter will be going to college next year. So they were pretty excited about the trip. Did find an interesting little brew house, a restaurant / tap house there in Helena called The Brew House. And it sticks out because it has like 2 floors. Like the top floor has an outside seating, some tap handles, a decent menu with some nice mains and some sandwiches and stuff like that. And then the downstairs has a pizza menu, which is completely different. So like depending on which floor you go into, you have a different menu and different options. And it just had a really cool vibe overall. Like you could actually look down to the downstairs from upstairs. They actually had like a little catwalk across that you can kind of sit there and look at people downstairs. It's just a really cool, like little interesting vibey place. And it's right across the street from where my daughter's going to college. So let's see, my computer stuff. Oh geez. Yeah. I still have not hooked everything back up since we came back from Hamvention. But I might take this opportunity to move everything around like I've been saying, because stuff's not hooked up and it makes it easier that way. I did get a chance to install Kubuntu 2604 on one of my test boxes, which I also ran Andy's Ham Radio Linux installation on. So we'll talk about that tonight with our guest. And radio, nothing extraordinary on the radio side of things, just using it for testing like I normally do. And upcoming travel. So we have some travel that will impact the live show schedule recordings. June 13th, July 19th, and July 26th are currently impacted. We have pulled those off of the event schedule here in Discord. And Cheryl has left me a note that the recording events are also set in the LHS Facebook page. So if you're following those, you'll notice that we also removed them on Facebook. So that is a really, really cool. So without further ado, let's get to our guest. And we have for you tonight KB1OIQ from the Andy from Andy's Ham Radio Linux, Andy Stewart. And Andy, you had a huge bio there on the Eastern Massachusetts ARRL site. But
you saw that?
Yeah, I was like, I am not going to read this bio. It's pretty long, and but I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself as if nobody knows who you are.
Okay, so my name is Andy Stewart. I'm KB1OIQ. I've been a ham for 19 years now. I have an extra class license, and I am a 1000% proponent of Linux. I don't run any other operating systems except that. And many years ago, I started the work to create what I now call Andy's Ham Radio Linux, which is a collection of software for ham radio that runs on Linux. And hopefully it's easy to install. Hopefully people enjoy it, and we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, so we know you started in amateur radio 19 years ago. So 2007, you got your first license. And what kind of brought you into ham radio? What was the interest that brought you there?
So I was teaching a Linux class at the local high school as part of the adult education program. And unbeknownst to me, there were two gentlemen in the back of the room who were ham radio operators. And they came over and spoke to me and said, Andy, you could do cool things with MCOM and your computer skills and on and on and on. And you'd really like the hobby. And I said, okay, sure. So I took the technician exam, passed it. Never did too much with MCOM actually, but found lots of other areas of interest. And then in 2008, got my general, 2009 got my extra, and have been having fun ever since.
So you said you were teaching a Linux class. So like what got you started in Linux?
Well, the same thing that gets lots of other people started, just the general frustration with Windows and not being able to get at source code and all of those sorts of things. I gradually merged into Linux and took the deep plunge, 10 years ago or so, where I went entirely Linux and nothing else. And it was just, the whole, one of the things that I find so irritating is when it says, are you sure you want to do this? Well, damn it, I wouldn't have clicked it if I didn't want to do that. I mean, come on. At least if Linux does that, there's a checkbox that says, don't ever ask me again. So I can have it my way, you can have it your way, and that's good. But one of my students asked me, Andy, if I check that to never get that box again, how do I get it back if I change my mind? I said, honestly, I don't know. It's probably buried in a text file somewhere. But I've never actually had to do that.
It's like in your .config directory, I'm sure, right?
Probably, So I told him, if you're not sure, just don't click it until you are. That's all.
So what was your first version of Linux that you kind of started with that kind of got you interested in teaching a class, which is awesome, and then kind of into this sort of hobbyist platform?
I'm trying to think. It was probably one of the early Slackware versions way back when. And I didn't fully understand this notion of distributions and all that. Red Hat came out with something a little while later. And I said, oh, I'll just put this on my computer. Not knowing that, no, you don't put Red Hat on top of Slackware. It doesn't work that way. So I had a mess on my hands that took me about 2 weeks to get anything even remotely workable. And my friends said, dude, you're not supposed to do it that way. And so I learned by making big mistakes.
As we all have, right?
Yeah. Don't type DD. I learned that one too.
Yeah. Be careful of your devices when you start doing block copies.
Do you remember way back when you were supposed to put an extra copy of the kernel on a floppy just in case you messed up your bootloader, your hard drive?
Yeah, your recovery.
When you get the device name wrong and the floppy light doesn't go on and the hard disk light does, I made up profanity that day.
Yeah, I have definitely written ISOs to a hard drive before.
Hmm.
It happens to the best of us, you know.
Oh, for sure.
So what got you interested in creating your own distribution? Because at one time you started with making an ISO. So maybe you could
Yes,
talk
I
a little
did.
bit about that.
Sure. So at the time, I was using Ubuntu Linux and XFCE, and I like that combination. Although there's many great combinations out there, and I started to put together some stuff for ham radio, and said, if I can make this work for me, why can't I put it in some sort of format that lets me share it with everybody, and then they can enjoy it too. I knew about SourceForge, and I've been distributing on SourceForge ever since. And version 8 was actually the first version that went out because I didn't consider versions 1 through 7 worthy of putting it out on the internet. So version 8 was the first one, and downloads were kind of sparse, maybe a couple of hundred or something like that. And every now and again, I would put out an updated version of Ubuntu, but it was remastered. I didn't start from scratch. I took Ubuntu and I took out packages that I didn't think anybody would want that weren't related to ham radio, and I inserted packages that were related to ham radio and made the ISO and put it out there. And by and large, that worked really well for quite a long time. But it wasn't perfect, but it did work pretty well, and the downloads grew over time.
Yeah, I think that the ISO and having like the live distribution aspect of it is sort of neat in a way, because people can do the try before you buy kind of option with with Linux, which people getting into Linux, they tend to not know a lot about it, and they're always concerned about, is my hardware going to work and everything else. And I guess especially back then, because version 8 came out when, like, what year?
Oh, I think that was 2011.
2011. So it was based on Ubuntu 2010 or something like that. So it'd be 10.04.
Something like that, yeah.
So the LTS. Did you use any kind of specific tools to build that? Did you like Cubic or anything else like that, or did you hand roll your own?
I believe this predated all of that. There was some website I found that said, if you want to remaster Ubuntu and create an ISO, here's what you did. Here's what you do. So I copied all of that into some local scripts, and could chroot into it and play games with it, and pack it up into an ISO and so forth. And you're right, it did have an advantage where somebody could just download the ISO, put it on some bootable medium, DVD in those days, many people used, and try it out, kick the tires as it were, see if they like it. But it had some other downfalls to it, and people made some valid criticism of it. And one of them said, well, what if I don't want Ubuntu, I want Kubuntu or some other flavor of Linux? And I had to say, well, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way today. And one of the bigger requests that I got in the last 5 or 6 years is, can you make it work on Raspberry Pi? Well, Pi 2s and 3s aren't really powerful enough to do this, but Pi 4 and 5 are. So I said, well, how can I satisfy all of these very valid requests and criticisms and make something that works better for a larger percentage of people? And that's when I came up with the idea of not doing it as a remastered Ubuntu, but do it as a pile of software that can, in theory, be installed on any flavor of Linux. So that's what I do now. So you download a gzip tar file, and if it's one of the supported flavors of Linux, and when I say supported, I mean I've tested it, I know it works. There's probably lots of other places where it works, but I can't say that because I haven't tested it. And then people will get their flavor of Linux up and running. The Ubuntu's work, configure it the way they want, and then install Andy's Ham Radio Linux, and they're off and running. And I think that satisfies a wider audience, and that's why I did it that way.
What version, or when did you actually transition to this installation script tarball versus the ISO?
Was it 2404? I think it was. It was about 2 years ago I did that. So
Okay.
I believe it was 2404 when I did that. And some people, have mentioned, well, gee, I liked it better the other way. Well, I know I can't keep everybody happy. And some folks have said, can you create the ISO anyway? I'm like, no, because then I'm going to be back in that business. And I kind of wanted to get out of that business. And just be able to install the software. There's plenty of issues there to worry about without all of these other intricacies of remastering something.
Right. So, and did you notice like when you did that, because obviously you have download history and stuff like that, did you notice an impact in downloads and stuff in the SourceForge? Did they increase or did they go down or
They seem to increase, and this time it usually takes a month to get the first 1,000 downloads. And this version 27 that I came out with just before Hamvention hit that in 3 weeks. And so either lots more people are interested, or some people have an intermittent internet connection and they're very persistent. I don't know which. I'd like to think it's more people are downloading it and using it, but naturally over time there's going to be repeats because the same people will download it again to upgrade it and so forth. And the way I've done it now with the installation script actually makes it much easier to upgrade, because before you had to wipe out your hard drive, install an updated flavor of the ISO that I created. There was no good upgrade path. Hopefully you backed up your home directory beforehand. I didn't have any automation for any of that. Now, for those of us who have done Linux for a long time, that's not so bad, really, although it could have been better. But this idea now of Linux is on there. If I come out with not if, but when I come out with a new version of Andy's Ham Radio Linux, you literally install it on top of the old one and it just works. I test that and I make sure that that works, and I do it on my own ham radio computer. And I've had no trouble with that.
Now, we haven't been hit in at least the community with a lot of the security 0-day problems and stuff like that with software. That is until you start deploying a lot of the node-based projects. We'll get to that eventually. So what do you do if you do happen to have a 0-day, or do you have plans of like pushing out like an emergency update or something like that so people can fix their impacted systems? Or have you not run across that, or do you not have plans for that?
I have not run across anything like that. And if there's an issue with the base Linux install that you have, like if it's Ubuntu, for example, I would expect Canonical to push something out and you would want to install that. If it should happen that there's some emergency bug in Andy's Ham Radio Linux that I have to fix and push out, well, sure, I'll do that once I know what it is and how to fix it. But I'm expecting these other things to come from the Linux distro vendor or person, whomever that may be.
Right, like all the repository-based packages that get installed will obviously update if you have the software updater turned on and you're doing that and stuff like that. But specifically the stuff that you're compiling into very specific versions or pinning the versions and stuff like that, that's more along the lines of what I'm kind of aiming at.
Right. So I would say roughly half of the programs, and I think there's about 90 of them, roughly half of them are compiled from source and the other half come from the repository. And there's two reasons why I do that. One, sometimes the repository is rather badly out of date. And so rather than jump into that and try to keep a bunch of repositories up to date, I'll say just compile it locally and you'll have a version that works. And the other reason for that is some programs are just not in the repository. So you're not going to get it unless you compile from source. And so that's the two reasons why I do that. And that causes installation time to vary widely depending on the type of computer that someone is using.
Yeah, and how many processors you apply to the actual compiling and everything else.
I threw 8 processors at it the other day with either 8 or 16 gigabytes of memory and got it done in 45 minutes. That's the fastest I've personally seen. I had one user tell me it took them 11 hours, but it worked. So I have no idea what they were running.
So what kind of feedback or support system do you have that's attached to that? Is that built into SourceForge?
Yeah, there's a section in SourceForge where people can file bugs and we can have discussions and things of that nature. And I filed 2 bugs on myself to remember to fix them, because when version 27 came out, I realized that I had goofed on 2 of the programs and my QA process didn't catch it. So there was a double goof there. And there's a user out there named Bill. He's Victor Echo 4, no, I'm sorry, VE3. Why am I forgetting his call sign? But he reported to me a couple of things that he saw wrong, and I confirmed it, filed a bug on myself to remember to fix it, and then in one case put out a document that says, here's the workaround, fix fix this and you'll get that program. And it happens to be Ham Clock next. So that was unfortunate because I wanted to get lots of new Ham Clock stuff out to people. Bill, VE3BOK, Bill Hunter, he's been helping me out quite a bit with these things. The other one that I have not admitted publicly, but it's there, is some flavors of Linux install wsjt-x improved just fine from source, and other flavors do not. And I do not yet know why.
Yes, I experienced that.
Yeah, the wsjt-x is okay. It's the improved one that has this issue. So I said, well, 2 out of 90, that's not so bad, but I want to do better than that. And again, I somehow or other, my QA process let that escape. And so I'm looking into that as well to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Well, how nicely you lead into my next question, which is literally on my list in this order. Your QA process. So what do you use for testing? Do you use any kind of automated CI, CD, continuous improvement, continuous deployment, or integration?
So,
sorry.
No, nothing quite so official. A friend of mine showed me a Python library called PyAutoGUI. And for those who don't know, with that library in Python, you can program where your mouse moves, where it clicks, and so forth. And I literally wrote a Python script that clicks through each and every menu item to bring up the desired program and waits a couple of seconds, and then it checks the process status to see if the correct process is running. And if it is, it says, okay, that's good. Kills everything, waits a couple seconds, and goes on to the next one. Now, I do have to keep an eye on it, because if I forget a menu entry, then all of a sudden I'm going to have a whole bunch of errors in a row because one thing is out of sync. But it's a whole lot better than doing it by hand times 5 or 6 flavors of supported Linux times multiple iterations before I put it out the door. That's a lot of work on my carpal tunnels, and I'd like to give them a rest.
I'm very familiar with PyAutoGUI. I mean, that's another way you can automate your wsjt-x workflow.
Right. Yep. And so I do that on Ubuntu Linux because it has the menu format that this thing understands. I don't want to program into it, okay, if your menus graphically look like this, do it one way, otherwise do it another, because it's testing the same desktop files for the menu. So there's no reason to do it multiple ways like that. But that's also one of the ways where I missed wsjt-x improved not working consistently across everything. And that's the first time I've seen something like that.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll see inconsistencies, and it could be just the specific packages or whatever that they decided to use for the compilation and stuff like that. So it's definitely it definitely happens. So are you using any kind of AI in your workflow? No AI. Okay.
No AI.
Any opinions on AI?
I'm sitting back and waiting to see. I just hope it doesn't turn us into the people like on the original Star Trek that had to put the colander on their heads to learn from the great teacher.
Yeah. Yes, I understand where you're coming from.
I believe that was the Spock's Brain episode.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the experience in getting it set up. And in my case, I installed it on a Kubuntu 2604 box earlier today, just to kind of get a feel for it. Plus, I wanted to take a look at the latest Kubuntu. Just because I like KDE, I like the way it looks. I actually don't use it anywhere except for I have an Office box that's running GRU to Linux that's using KDE on it. But I digress. I wanted to use it as a test. So the people, in order to get this, they download the tarball, and you should probably download the instructions too. There's a nice README that you provide, or getting started document. I failed to read that the first time.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, I can figure this out. I just
I get more alleged bug issues because people didn't read it. And when I give a public presentation, I think I have it in 2 different slides that says, you read this, right? And even at that, people wouldn't read it. And I'm not picking on you specifically, not at all. But so I posted the same document under 4 different names, hoping that one of them would resonate with someone. So getting started is what it should be called. And then you'll see readme dot first and something else. and or maybe it's readme.txt. And so it's all the same thing. So if you read one and follow it, you've got it made. And thank you for figuring that out and taking a look at it.
Yeah, because I first started in my downloads directory, and I'm just untarballed it there, and just executed the script. And surprisingly, a lot of stuff installed that way. Only when I started trying to launch individual applications, I was like, oh, it didn't actually install this. And so I went and looked at the configuration, and I did edit the install script and put the, nproc in there to go ahead and let it use all the processes or processors.
Nice. You did read it. Cool.
Yeah, I did read it to that part.
And thank you.
That should probably just be the default anyway. There's no reason.
I know. I was being very conservative with that. And my original thinking was, well, if somebody goes and tries to run all the CPUs on a Raspberry Pi and doesn't have proper cooling, are they going to fry it? And part of me says, well, that's on them. And part of me says, no, I don't want to get emails where somebody gets mad at me for that. So I kept it conservative.
Yeah, I mean, it has thermal protection in it, so it shouldn't completely melt itself.
It shouldn't, I know, but I figured I'd play it safe. But maybe I'll just put, the max in there and let it go at that. Then people will be all excited that it runs a lot faster.
Right. So you do need to extract the tarball into the /user/local directory. I think I got that part finally correct. And you'll need to use your sudo permissions to actually do this because it is a protected directory. And like we were talking about, you do have options to edit that install script. And one of those options is the number of processors that you're going to give it. And that's basically number of threads. When you look at your Core 2 Duo, which hopefully you're not installing it on that or something like that, you have physical processors, and then you have threads. So you could basically open it all up by telling it to, look at the processor and just use whatever comes back for the number of processors. That's that mproc with the little backticks on it to execute that out.
Yep.
And so I ran it the wrong way first and installed some stuff. I then untarballed it and reset it all up in the other, and it installed fine. So it actually did catch everything up. So everything that wasn't installed before was then there, because it was like GQRX wasn't there, SDR++ wasn't there, and I'm like, what did I do wrong? So I did go back and look at the docs, and I was like, oh, okay. It didn't clearly say that. I was kind of looking for it to say, untar here. But everything pointed to that user local. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, this is starting to make sense.
I could be what I would call obnoxious and have a line in the script that says, did you read and understand the getting started guide? And answer yes, no. But I said, no, that's going too far.
You could fix it and put a prefix in there where it learns its own location, and then it can move on from there. And then you can get rid of all the nonsense of having to do that way. You've already executing it with sudo permissions and stuff like that. So it should be able to run from anywhere knowing its own prefix.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But anyway, it did work after that. And I did, quickly connect to, using FLRig to my Yaesu here. And that worked fine. And considering that the versions out of the repo right now for FLRig do not work out of the box. I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but all of the versions are pretty much bad.
Oh, that's not good.
No, it's bad. It's bad. So it's missing files, and then it really doesn't want to run anyway after you fix the missing files. So there was definitely a bad build in there somewhere that happens to be out there. That's kind of when I was putting our little thumb drive together with all of the ISOs on it, I was kind of hesitant to even put some of these on there, the latest LTSs, and you're going to have problems with the stuff that's in the repo, especially if you use FLRig. HamLib was not affected, so you didn't have to worry about that. So
with FLRig, I don't remember if that one came from the repo or if that one is from source.
Source, you have it from source.
Okay, so then there shouldn't be a problem.
Nope, runs like a champ. So
okay, good to know.
And it's nice that when you're setting it up, there's a few places where it prompts the user to do something, which I think is somewhere, I would assume somewhere close to the middle, where it's setting all the user permissions for putting you in all the proper groups. Like we're always telling you, getting that dial out group and stuff like that. But obviously with some of the other software, you want to have the other groups and stuff like that for, I'm assuming probably like SVX link and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That has some other permissions that you need to establish for that. And yeah, that would be nice if it prompted that at the beginning, so you can just kind of walk away from it.
Yeah, I've been looking at ways to do that because it gets 10 minutes into it and then asks a question and you walked away, come back an hour later and say, well, how long has it been sitting there?
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And so I admit and I agree that that's rather suboptimal. If I could get all the questions done up front and then kick it off and you don't have to worry about it till it's done, I agree that that would be an improvement.
Yeah, or just grab the who am I, right? Because I'm assuming you're installing this as the user you're running it as.
Yeah, but I don't make that assumption, but that's probably a fair one.
Hopefully. Yeah, and then like all the versions look pretty much up to date. I'd say like the only thing that's behind that I noticed, at least in my lookings at it, but like I think the date of this probably predates the 3.0.1 release of wsjt-x. And I couldn't get wsjt-x improved to run on mine because it doesn't run on Kubuntu for some reason. I didn't do an S-trace on it yet to see why.
Yeah, the compile doesn't succeed correctly, and I haven't looked at that in detail to see why.
Okay, yeah. I didn't look at it in detail either. I kind of just got it all running and just wanted to see it. And I personally, with the SDR++, go with the nightly builds just because they haven't done a release in a long time.
Right.
Like a true release, and the nightly builds run beautifully. So pretty much any nightly build you probably can pull on that one, and you'd have good success with that. Plus, there's a lot of third-party fork versions of SDR++ now, including like the Brown edition and probably like half a dozen others that are kind of interesting on some of the plugins that they include in it and stuff like that.
Right. Hey, let's back up 1 second and talk about when I prompted for the username. There's really only one reason I do that, and it's because of something that Python coders do that I hate. And what they do is they do the Windows-esque thing of assuming that the software goes in the home directory. And so they create these virtual environments in your home directory and do all that kind of stuff there. And if you're installing it as root, I don't know which user's home directory you want to put it in. And I think either the Python people haven't learned that system things go in system directories and user stuff goes in user directories, or I don't know what drugs they're on that causes them to do this. And it's a real problem if somebody sets up a computer for a ham radio club's shack where there's going to be like 10 ham radio users on there with their own accounts, because I only ask for one username. So 9 other people are going to have a bunch of software that doesn't work. And I don't know what to do about that. I find it a very frustrating and annoying problem, but lots of Python code is written that way. And I wish I knew why. I don't understand it.
Well, I mean, the theory of people installing software for themselves is it goes in the user space. So it should be in the home directory. Period,
yeah, but that's contrary to Linux and Unix philosophy. It should be installed in a system area where the user data is stored in their home directory tree somewhere.
The user configs, right? Yeah, you should be able to install the application globally, and then instantiate all the configuration files to the till the user, in whatever local paths and stuff like that you need.
Right. Now, if it were possible to create this Python virtual environment in a way that multiple users on a system could use it and still keep their user data separate, okay, that wouldn't be so bad, but I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah, you would probably, for the users, you'd probably have to use like probably pipx or UV for each user, and they'd have to kind of have a startup script that when they first log in, do you want to update all the software so you can run it here, and then you would basically have it run the script and it would set up all the environments and stuff like that. It'd be a little bit more tedious, where it's like the user specific stuff you'd have to jack into like the SCL file or something like that, and actually have it instantiate all that stuff when the user is created, and then when the user first logs in, have some type of activity that needs to run in the auto startup sequence.
Yeah, so it's a pet peeve of mine. No one has said to me yet, oh, we tried this with 10 users on our ham radio club and it didn't work, but I got paid for decades to think of problems like that and solve them before they happened. And so I know about this one. I don't think it's a real problem for anybody, but if it becomes one, I have not yet come up with a solution for it.
Yeah.
The notion of installing 10 different copies of the program is very much anti the Linux and Unix philosophy.
Right. Well, when you come to a immutable system, which I'm assuming you haven't run this on yet, what would you foresee the problems being there?
Sorry, I don't know what that expression means. You said immutable system?
Yeah. So basically, where the the ability to install software becomes sort of more phone-like. Let's say like a phone, where the system itself is protected from changes, including the kernel and stuff like that. And in order to install software, generally you're pushed into using things like Flatpaks, app images, stuff like that, where if you're doing like Debs, it actually creates like a hash instance of your OS, and it applies that hash instance every time you update the base system. So it's a little different. It's a little different.
But are people really doing that on their ham radio based computers? It sounds like something you would have in a much stricter security environment. Sure, they could, but do they?
I mean, you know, I think that's the direction that a lot of these distributions are going towards.
Right.
I mean,
and
Fedora's made a big, Fedora's made a big jump into it as well with their various builds like Onyx and stuff like that, Clear Blue and stuff like that. I know Canonical wants to do it, and I think they have test builds out for immutable systems as well. Things like NixOS is completely done that way, where you have flakes where you're setting up stuff.
Right. You there?
There's something to think about. No, I just.
Okay, sorry. Another thing that I'm seeing that's bugging me is things like putting Firefox in a snap package.
Oh God,
No, I don't want you doing that. In fact, the install script goes to great effort to disconnect all of that and install a version of Firefox that's not in a snap package. And that's not just a philosophical thing. I did that for a functional reason. The documentation directory that I have invokes file : a local file in the browser, so you can see some of this stuff. And if it's in a snap package, file : doesn't work. Now, okay, maybe I should use a file manager or something like that to do it. And I've started to merge over that way because it's kind of a pain to keep taking the snap version of Firefox out there. And it occurs to me that, well, maybe somebody doesn't want me doing that to their system. But right now, that's what happens. So that's kind of irritating to me, that Firefox is constrained that way, and I don't need or want those constraints, but I'm stuck with them if I use the Ubuntu repository.
Yeah, I noticed that with my install of Kubuntu. It's interesting that in the software discovery mechanism, they actually have the snaps turned off. So like Snap Store is turned off in the discovery mechanism, but Firefox is clearly installed via Snap.
Right.
So it's like, it's interesting.
The install script, what I did is I grabbed an installation file straight from Firefox's website, and that's not in any sort of Snap container, and just installed it that way. But no one has complained to me that, Andy, I wanted the Snap version, you took it away from me. But I really shouldn't take that kind of liberty with somebody's system.
Yeah, I'm definitely there with you. So why don't you give us a little overview of some of the other apps that probably I would never use, or perhaps individual users might be really interested in knowing, like what makes the 90 applications that you've got running on this thing, the ones you selected.
So I selected as much free and open source ham radio software that I could find. Sometimes users send me an email and say, hey, Andy, do you know about this program or that program? I found out about the original ham clock that way, where a user said to me, hey, try this out. It's cool. And it is, and continues to be. We'll talk about that a little bit later because there's lots of ham clock-like things out there. But I picked a smattering of software to try to cover a wide breadth of our multifaceted hobby. So I've got perhaps a dozen or so menus organized by, antenna-related programs and digital modes and satellite and software-defined radio and so on and so forth. And within each of those, there's some number of programs related to that. And so I organized it that way. I install an Andy's Ham Radio Linux menu, and then all of those submenus are the way I've organized it. But I did not change the menu file that comes with a program. So if they wanted their program installed in 3 other menus, it still goes there. So sometimes you will have duplicates depending on which system you're on and how it organizes its menus. But basically, I just took as much as I could find, and I tried certain things out. And every now and again, you get a program that's like, yeah, this one's not quite ready for prime time, in my opinion. And I'm not going to name any because people are working on it. And then other stuff that looks really cool, like Ham Clock and many, many, many other programs, it's going in there. And I just kind of evolved that way. Some of the programs have been in there for years, and some of them are relatively new. And so I try to keep up to date with the latest and greatest versions. One of the files is the list of websites that I go to learn more about these programs, how to install them, download them, and so forth. And it is kind of a manual process to go through and say, okay, which of these have been updated since I did the last release? And it's hard to automate that because websites change all the time.
Yeah, and you're also seeing a lot of a lot of new applications are kind of getting dumped out there rather quickly with all these AI vibe coders solving all kinds of problems for their own shacks, which are kind of interesting and semi-scary a little bit, not knowing the complete software inventory and not being 100% familiar with the impact of installing a zillion npm packages on your machine and then telling the user that they just need to sudo it and run it. I mean, there's a lot of cool apps coming out. We've been talking about them here on the show. We'll probably be talking about them for the next year or so, just talking about some of these new apps that are making their ways out there. And I know you're not doing a lot of them yet, but I'm sure you're probably getting people asking you about things like, Grey Wolf and these SDR front ends for stuff now.
Yeah, the SDR ones are tough because they take a long time to compile. There's tons and tons of stuff in there. There's a lot of different SDR programs out there, and I don't know what anybody's specific hardware is. There's lots of different hardware out there as well. So I picked a few based on user input and put them in there. And then in the getting started document, you'll note that I put a swag in there for here's how much storage space this is going to take after you install it. Here's how much storage space your OS is likely to take, but that'll vary. And so this way people will at least have enough, if they're using a disk, they'll have that or a big enough SD card to put it on, and then still leave themselves enough room to play around and have fun.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I know Cheryl's been really quiet because I'm just kind of blowing through the list here. But I want to bring her back in and we'll talk a little bit about invention. So Cheryl, you want to take over?
Sure. Sorry, I was handling text messages I was getting bombed with. So again, I wasn't terribly paying attention. I'm sorry. But yeah, Hamvention, it was nice to see that Andy's talk was actually later in the day. Regretfully, I missed it as well as Bill because we were busy with the booth. But so I'm hoping that things went well. But other than that, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. Again, I was busy dealing with other stuff, so I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. I was I kind of put in there that we kind of wanted to see what your the difference was with the different schedule, because obviously last year you had the 9 o'clock schedule and you had a certain amount of people show up, and I just want to know, like, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, how'd that work out for you?
I'm sorry, I was typing a message to somebody. The first 3 years I did the talk at Hamvention, I did it at 9 o'clock in the morning, and many people came to me and said, Andy, we wanted to go to your talk, but we didn't get past the front gate for 45 minutes to an hour because the line was so long. But that also gave me the chance to say to people, good, you won't fall asleep in my talk because you've all had plenty of coffee. And that seemed to work. At least people didn't fall asleep. I'd like to think it was the coffee. But then they moved me to 3 o'clock, and I'm not going to complain or anything. It's a privilege to present at Hamvention, whatever time slot and room they give me. I'm happy with that. I really am. And so 3 o'clock worked out well. I had an audience of an estimated 125 people, which I thought was a really good crowd. Yeah. And that's what I had gotten at 9 in the morning as well. And we had a good time, gave the talk. In the presentation, I talk more about the groups of programs and some of the things that are in there to kind of whet people's appetite and make them hopefully want to try it. But also, again, expose to them just the wide variety of things that we can do in this hobby. It's multifaceted, as we know, but not everybody in the room is, an expert in the hobby. Maybe they're brand new. They just passed their technician exam or whatever, and they may not be well versed in Linux yet. So to see that overview, I think is really helpful to them.
I've got a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that most of the people that come to your forums are new users, like brand new, like tech license people? Do you think they're middle of the road people? Do you think they're older ham radio operators that have finally said, I'm done with Linux or done with Windows, I want to try Linux?
It's
Do you have any
all
idea?
of the above, and I don't know percentages. I asked people. I said, how many of you are already running Indy's Ham Radio Linux? And a bunch of hands went up. I said, how many of you don't run Linux yet? And a bunch of hands went up. So it runs the gamut of experience levels. And many people have said to me, Andy, I finally had it with that stuff from Redmond. I'm diving into Linux. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to try your stuff out. And I said, well, please let me know. I hope you have a good experience.
Did you have any interesting questions or feedback that came out of that session this time?
It was more the usual stuff of, people asked a lot of questions about ham clock. People were asking questions about how to configure the script to make it do different things. Many times people say, well, all those programs are cool, but I don't want all of those. I want these 10 or 12. And so I'll explain to them how to edit the installation script to get that result. And I said, now be careful. I cannot possibly test all permutations of those settings. So it's imaginable to me that you could pick a combination where something doesn't work, but most probably it'll work just fine regardless of how you set those things. So people go off and do that and kind of customize it their own way. And just in general, people ask, where is this going to go in the future? And I'm still very energetic and very enthusiastic about it. And for as long as I can see in the future, I see myself doing this.
Yeah, we noticed, at least from the booth and talking with people this time, that there seemed to be more pointed questions. Seemed like a lot of people were already kind of in that mode of transitioning or experimenting. A lot less people that were like, oh, what is this Linux thing and stuff like that. It seemed to be the questions got a little bit more interesting, a little bit more deeper into the subject of how do I fix this particular use case? How do I get this working? And so many questions on trying to run WinLink Express inside of wine. Did you notice that over the last few years, sort of the question pool is getting a little bit more advanced?
For the longest time, I wouldn't put wine in there, because the overwhelming majority of software for Windows is proprietary. So I said, well, why put wine in there?
Yeah.
Well, then there was the, why am I having a brain cramp? The CW program that's now MIT license, I believe it is. Oh, why can't I remember it? It was written for Windows. It's open source now. It runs under Wine. It runs very, very well. It's the program that you can configure it so that it Morse Runner. Thank you. Why couldn't I remember that? I put Morse Runner in there. I ran it myself. I really liked it, and I said, okay, I will go through what could be the pain of installing Wine and put Morse Runner in it and see if it works. And in my experience, it works flawlessly. And so I said, that's a good program to put in there. But I've been very careful about putting too much stuff in that bucket, and that was one that just has worked really well.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Yeah. Alrighty. Do you have anything else you want to talk about for Hamvention from the forums?
So as far as Hamvention goes, I had a great time. I really enjoyed giving the talk and talking to people. Several people bumped into me as I was walking around, and they said, "Are you the Linux guy?" And I said, "No, I'm not Linus." Some people recognized my call sign, so that was cool. Wearing a Linux t-shirt didn't hurt any, I'm sure. And it was just great to chat with people. People were universally positive. If anybody doesn't like this stuff, they didn't tell me that, which I guess was polite of them. And it may not be for everybody, but I appreciate everybody that gives it a try and offers feedback. But I had a great time at Hamvention. I did some sightseeing before and after, and then took 2 days to drive home to Massachusetts. And I've done this 4 years in a row, and I'm going to keep doing it as long as I'm able.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we kept on having people come to the booth and ask when you're going to be back at the booth.
Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, we saw your talk this morning. No, that wasn't us.
So 3 or 4 years ago, I had this discussion with Russ because I had put a title on my slides about 4 years ago that said Linux in your ham shack. And I was not intending to step on the name of this podcast, but I accidentally created something that was close enough that it confused people. And I was talking with Russ, and a couple of people came over and mentioned my talk. And I'm like, oh, geez, I've polluted the waters here, and I didn't mean to. And I apologized profusely to Russ, and then immediately never put that on my slides again.
Well, it's no problem at all mentioning us, obviously, and we have no problem at all telling them, oh no, Andy does his own talk. He develops his own
Right.
Script to build out your system and stuff like that. So we definitely have those conversations with people, but it was kind of funny because like there's not many booths that are entitled Linux.
That's true. That's true. And of course, I stopped over to say hi to you folks, and that was great. And I did a double take, Bill, when you mentioned your call, because I know a fellow named Scott, and his call sign is November Echo 1 Radio Delta. A good friend of mine. He's from Southern New Hampshire. So yeah, I appreciate the call.
I've worked him on the islands and stuff before.
Oh yeah, he likes to do that.
Oh yeah,
So
I've worked him many times.
So a couple of things I wanted to mention, if I could, if we still have some time.
Sure.
There's a logging program that I have included for many years, and it's called Xlog. And I don't know if folks are familiar with it. I've been using it for 19 years. It's the only logger I use. And I do just because I like it. It works. And if I make a mistake, I can edit the text file and fix it. But it's written in GTK2. Yeah. And we all know that's awfully obsolete. And are they even out with GTK4 yet? I'm not sure. But certainly 3 has been there for quite some time. And I've gotten a couple of emails from folks that say, hey, are you going to update this? Because if you don't, and Linux distributions pull GTK2, your stuff's not going to work. And I said, yeah, that's a problem. And I'm the maintainer of Xlog now, but I did not write it originally. I've been maintaining it for 10 plus years, and mostly all I've had to do is update it when the ADIF specification changes. So I haven't done much with it, but I use it all the time. When I operate Kilo 2 Hotel for 13 colonies, I put 2,200 calls in that log in a week, and it works. But I know the keyboard shortcuts. It's not a contest logger. It's meant for casual operating. So now I have to decide, do I want to put a large amount of effort into a program that I never wrote in the first place to get it to go from GTK2 to GTK3? Or is it time to let those bits fade into the sunset? The software is over 20 years old. And I don't have a good notion of that because I don't know how many people use it. I could adapt to a different logging program. I'm not worried about that, but I don't know if everyone who uses it can say that. And I have no idea how many people use other logging programs versus this one. I don't know how popular this is relative to the other ones. I imagine maybe not so much. I just don't know. So that's something on my list that I'm pondering as to whether I take the dive and modify all that code to keep it alive, or whether it's time to let that set into the sunset, as it were. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like, because we talk about loggers all the time, and people are looking for more bells and whistles and everything else nowadays.
Right.
We've definitely shown a lot of Qlog as kind of like the more modern looking logger. I used to be a big CQR log guy. That's what I always used for years and years and years until they started having installation problems when they started doing the flipping back and forth between MariaDB and MySQL. Probably like 6 or 7, 8 years ago now.
Yep.
And
not when MM is out there now, and other things like that. So I'm leaning toward, I could do the following. I could pull up an old version of Linux where this compiles fine, make edits there, and release a static binary. I don't like that idea, but yes, I could do it. But eventually that's just going to be like, why am I doing that? I'm just putting off the inevitable. So I'm leaning toward letting the sunset on it, but I haven't decided that yet.
Well, this will be disturbing for you. Cheryl did some Googling and dropped here in the notes that GTK4 was released in December of 2020.
So this is ever so slightly behind.
I think the latest GNOME is obviously based on the new GTK library.
Right.
Well, this sounds like a perfect project for your drunk coding buddy Claude to complete.
Oh, interesting that you say that, because someone who maintains this package for another flavor of Linux sent me an email, and I started this discussion with him, and he says, well, let me look at AI and see if that can help this problem. And so maybe I can get some assistance on this. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But that was one issue that I wanted to mention. And I think that was the only one that I wanted to throw out there that we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, that's cool that you maintain that. I personally use Wavelog because I've kind of gone to, I don't really want the logger on my computer because I do it from everywhere, and I do change systems out quite regularly, especially to do testing and stuff like that, and do reviews for the show. And I kind of like, if I make a test contact on my test box, I'd like my log to kind of go up into Wavelog. So right. I kind of just preset up everything to do that.
Yeah. Well, a few years ago, I wrote some extra code in Xlog so that when wsjt-x goes to export a log entry, that Xlog grabs it and puts it in there. So wsjt-x has its copy of the log buried somewhere. It goes into Xlog, where to me, it's much easier to access. And then if you use Grid Tracker, it gets uploaded to whatever logging thing you've configured it for. And for me, it's Logbook of the World. And so it goes up there. So there's multiple copies of this stuff floating around. And if I'm looking for, somebody sends me a QSL card, I search all of my Xlog logs and find them because they're all text-based. It's easy. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't go to a more sophisticated logger and do something a little different. That would be okay. And this would give me a chance to explore more of what's out there.
Yeah, exactly.
I think all of us find a set of programs that we like, and we kind of stick with it for a long time and don't necessarily explore new and different things that are out there.
Yeah, Steve in the chat room was saying loggers are like ... which is, they're kind of like religion. It's kind of like you kind of stick with one and you're just in it to win it, and you will not hear anybody else's opinion on, oh, this one's better than that one. That one's better than this one.
I don't want someone printing a picture of me and burning it in effigy because I let Xlog go into the sunset. I don't want that to happen. But eventually you just have to kind of decide where you're going to spend your time.
Yeah, just turn it to terminal based and be done with it, right? Write a 2
Or maybe somebody steps forward and says, Andy, if you don't want to own it anymore, I'll take it. I'll upgrade it to GTK3 and I'll own it from there. That's a distinct possibility.
Well, that's the point of open source, right? They do a pull request.
That's right. I mean, that's how I got it in the first place. The original author wanted to find another owner, and I believe he was in the Netherlands, and he sent an email saying, hey, if anybody wants this, send me an email with your qualifications and let me know. So I did. Didn't hear anything for about 6 weeks, and then I heard from him. He says, Andy, you've got the right qualifications to do this, and no one else in the world sent me an email.
Interesting.
Which was interesting and sad and whatever. And so I was happy to take it over, and I haven't had to do too much to the code, like I said, but it kept it going for another 10 plus years anyway, maybe 15.
Yeah. Okay, well, now we're kind of getting here towards the end because we are, definitely long on this one, but this is great because this has been really good information. We're going to throw some opinion items at you. So you got to just kind of cast an opinion, or you can say pass. Wayland or X11?
I'm still using X11.
By choice, or?
Yeah, because actually I had Wayland running on my Raspberry Pi and I couldn't make virtual desktop work. So I said later with that.
I think that's fixed now, but
I hope so. But,
yeah.
I couldn't figure it out.
What's your favorite text editor?
When I was working, it was Emacs without question, but lately it's Nano.
Okay. Yeah. Nano. That's cool.
I retired 2 years ago and used Emacs daily for the better part of my career.
I guess I should have been like, what was your favorite distro? And you'd say Emacs, right?
No, I didn't use it quite to that point, but I know people who did.
Yeah. Well, let's get to it. What is your favorite distro?
These days I'm using Ubuntu a lot, and it works for me. But I do test it on other distros, and some of those look pretty cool, but I'm kind of, this is what I like, this is what I'm used to, and I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah, it's kind of your workflow or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just recently switched to Marchi on everything that I'm using on a daily driver just because I kind of like the way Hyperland works. It sort of fits my organizational skills better because I was noticing how sloppy I was getting with my window management.
Right.
So I was like, I'm going to try something that forces me into a little box and see how it works.
Yeah. Lately, I've been thinking about maybe going to Debian 13 or possibly even what's that one that they have that doesn't have system D in it? Devuan? Is that how you say that?
Yeah, Devuan. Yeah.
I'm pondering. I don't know too much about that one, but I'm going to look at it.
Yeah, well, be careful of that because there's some things coming down the pipeline in the Linux kernel chat about these subsystems going to be locked down into System D and stuff like that. So
okay, well, we won't start that discussion, but
yeah, I've already seen the inklings of that kind of stuff coming across here. And as an old Emacs guy and a new Nano guy, tabs or spaces?
I had Emacs programmed to put in spaces when I hit tab.
Sweet. And Bill N3AJ says Dev1 is one he was thinking of.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the Devuan or...
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's all the opinions that I have listed here because those are fun ones to kind of play around with.
Sure.
Was there anything else we failed to kind of mention or talk about? I mean, it was real interesting hearing that Xlog sort of segue. But is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know about you or your other projects or anything else you got going on?
Well, let's see. I retired for 2 years ago from a 4-decade-long career as a computer engineer, mostly writing software for simulators and testing digital logic. And so I was paid to find all kinds of bugs and issues and then go off and get them solved. That was fun. Learned a lot that way. And now that I'm retired, I've been spending a lot of time sniffing solder and building things and fixing antique radios, both ham radio boat anchors and also receivers from the 20s and 30s.
Well, excellent. That sounds like fun.
So
well,
I have no dearth of projects on my workbench.
Tons of stuff. Well, I'd like to thank you, Andy, for coming on the podcast here. I know it's been a long while getting you on here, and we do talk about Andy's Ham Radio Linux and a lot of feedback items and a lot of the updates and stuff like that. So we've always been keeping an eye on the project, and it's been fun seeing you every year at Hamvention, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you in person again at the next Hamvention.
Yes, I look forward to that. And Bill and Cheryl, thanks for letting me be on the podcast here. This was great. And if anybody in the audience there ever has any questions or anything, send me an email, my call sign at the League, and I will get to it as soon as I can, and we can take it from there.
Cool.
Well, thank you very much, Andy. We're going to get on to our announcements and feedback and move on. If you just want to stay around in case somebody has a question that pops up in the chat room for a little bit, that would be awesome.
Okay, I'll do that. And thanks again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, just a little side note here for everybody. Russ was actually native to Hampton, New Hampshire, which is about 45 minutes from where Andy lives. So apparently great minds come from the New England states. So
I used to take my family to Hampton Beach. I did it for about 20 straight years.
Yeah, Russ actually grew up about a half mile from the beach.
Yeah.
So
that's quite a coincidence.
He spent lots of time there.
Yeah.
So cool. So, all right. So I guess we're going to move on to announcements and feedback now. Thank you so much, Andy, for all of your information. But for our announcements, we need help supporting the show. You can support us via Patreon, PayPal, merch, sharing the podcast via social media, rating us in your podcast application. All the help is appreciated. We need your feedback. You can email us at info@lhspodcast.info. And that's, if you've got comments about different things you're trying to do or you are doing and you want us to share with our listeners, that's great. We also need information or your requests for our weekender topics, whether it's just general topics or deep divey type things, whatever you want to share. We currently have the AF0SS repeater up for sale. It's a Yaesu DR1X refurbished HRI 200, excuse me. And this is a package deal. If you're interested, contact us at LHS or info@lhspodcast.info. And as I keep repeating, and I will until November, we are having a memorial service for Russ here at the house in Mount Vernon, Missouri, on November 1st. Everyone is welcome to join us. If you'd like to join us, send us an email to info@lhspodcast.info. We'll send you more info, or you can visit lhs.fyi/mem, which will take us to take you to the Facebook page for the event. So, and that's it for the announcements. Thanks to Bill for getting those all trimmed down a little bit. It's like rattle on way too much.
I tried to give you the sign. It was like, shorten that up. We need to shorten that up.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get over to the feedback. We have an email that we received on May 21st from Don, KJ5MVN. And Don says, much appreciated your podcast and listen when I can. I would love to hear more for beginning DragonOS Linux users. I certainly know enough to be dangerous, so I need to upgrade my old HP-UX. Okay. And I'm having issues with upgrades on my old ASUS repurposed laptop. It is failing to boot on the new upgrades Linux versions. I replaced the old hard drive with an SSD when I put it together, and I did the DragonOS and 73 Linux install from Ham Radio Crusader. I have updated to wsjt-x 3.0, and it works well. I also installed Grid Tracker 2, so it will update my QRZ log for me. I want to get PotaCat running, so I can tie to my new ICOM 7300 Mark II and run it remote from my tablet or phone. So yeah, PotaCat. Mostly using it for wsjt-x with Grid Tracker 2. I want to take this laptop to the field for POTA activations and expand on its use. Satellite tracking is another area as well. So in general, anything on DragonOS maintenance, adding new apps like PotaCat, Grid Tracker 2, and other interesting ham tools to the mix would be great. Also, any basic Linux tools to manage it. I still need to learn how to add access to my Wi-Fi, printer, and other PCs as well. Ham on, and blessing to the Ham Shack family from Texas. And 73 from Don. Well, thanks very much for that email, Don, and we'll take a look at some of those topics and see what we can cover, and whether they're featured topic ready, or if they just need to be pushed into our Linux and the Ham Shack segment in the regular short topic shows. And then we also received an email on May 24th from Bob, K4RFK, and he says he just has a quick suggestion. Look into PotaCat. It's a very interesting new program for doing POTA, both on your computer and remotely. And yes. So obviously 2 people are interested in PotaCat, and we had a few more people talk about it at Hamvention. And this does fall in that area of applications that do kind of run into NPM packages and stuff like that. So there is a bit of software inventory and security items to kind of digest when you're using applications like this, but maybe we'll put something together and talk about that in detail, and how you can protect yourself when you're finding these really awesome web-driven applications that want to get into your web browser with untethered access. Let's just say I'm in the professional software development industry, and it's a really bad time to be having any web apps. We have to take great measures to prevent attacks from both sides, the service side and the browser side, and it's growing even more crazy on a day-by-day basis. So be very wary of just blatantly installing this stuff in a system that you use every day for anything, whether that be Windows, Mac OS, or Linux. Doesn't matter which system you're in. If you put in a nasty malware package, it will take everything you have and send it out to the world for sale. So just be careful. I'm not saying PotaCat has this problem, or the SDR apps I mentioned have this problem, but this is an area right now that is under a very high level amount of attacks, and the attack vector is huge. So you need to be very careful when you get into doing these kinds of applications that run in the web browser. And I'll leave that at that. Cheryl, you want to do the subscribers and supporters?
Sure. So I'm going to cut this list down a little bit and just mention the people that we have heard from. On PayPal, we have Jeff Zimmerman, William Strand, and PA Stream RR Computer Services. On Facebook, we had Adam Cox, Mark Schreiner, Ed Wilson, Magnolia Industrial Group LLC, Miroslav Kadlec, and Timothy Groman join us. On Mastodon, we had VK3XB/5Z4XB and Digital Wire. On Discord, we had MB_radio, Tristan-MW3VJN, and Andy joined us. So, which is, if you haven't missed it in the rest of the podcast, it's KB1OIQ, excuse me. And for our live show participants, we had Gene, BX8AAD, Tony, K4XSS, Steve, KJ5T, Jill, K1TTZ, and Bill, N3AJ.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, everyone, for supporting the show and obviously investing yourselves into some of our social media accounts. Definitely getting some action there on Mastodon, seeing a lot of shares on the episodes. So we'll make sure we continue pushing that stuff out there. As well on X, we get a lot of boosts or whatever they call it out that direction. So thank you very much for that. And as always, thank you for anything you can do to help support what we're doing here. And like we mentioned before, suggestions, topics, everything, just email us info@lhspodcast.info or send us a note on any one of the social media platforms. And we'll definitely take that into consideration moving forward. So Cheryl, I don't see anything else from the chat room or anything else. So why don't you get us on out of here?
All righty then. This brings us down to the end of our show. And thank you for listening to episode 618. We'll catch you next time with our Weekender episode. For Russ, K5TUX, I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS podcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954776469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.